Shadows crawl and nightmares call. Brace yourselves, one and all. It's the Scare Factor Podcast, Season 4.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Scare Factor Podcast. My name is Bryan of Team Skelegore. Joining me, as always, Taylor of Team Brady Pack. Taylor, how are you?
Like a villain.
Sick. Love to hear it. How's the wife and kids?
Well, she's been well behaved, and the children are menaces as usual.
Excellent. Love to hear it. So how's life been? How's work?
Hellish. Being with Amazon when it's this hot outside already is torture.
I believe it. Yeah, it's hotter than Satan's asshole here in central New York. Again, I don't understand how anybody can work outside in these conditions. It is inhuman. It should be illegal to work outside in this heat. It's like 1,000 degrees.
I could have an entire rant about that, but that's not even related to this.
I think that because I understand how much people's hard work is worth, I think that companies should get less of it and still have to pay the same amount. I understand how much that's worth, and I don't think that big companies do understand how much it's worth. Unfortunately, there's not enough people that will rise up and take on the corporate overlords, so here we are left bitching about it. That's a different show, though.
Yes.
This week on the Scare Factor Podcast, yeah, you're listening to a podcast about haunted houses, remember? This week, we're talking about what should be in a haunt. This is the deep dive of deep dives. In the past, we have done some deep dives on specific categories. This is kind of a deep dive of deep dives, right? We're going to talk about every category on the score sheet, and we're going to talk about what should be in a haunt for each one of those things. This obviously is not going to be a super long episode because there's just so much. There's no way we can cover all of this in 1 or even 2 hours. We're going to do our best to keep this down to the basics, the absolute necessities, maybe talk about a few examples. So without further ado, let's get into this. The first thing on our score sheet is cast, right? So what should be in a haunt regarding cast? People, generally, right?
Generally, unless you're going to hire demons, angels, aliens, but generally just humans work, too.
If you've got, supernatural beings and aliens from outer space, I don't think you need to open a haunt, to be honest. I think that financially, you're just going to be okay.
More like a freak show at that point.
Honestly, sell the aliens to the government. Actually, let's not sell aliens to this government.
Let's not.
Let's walk that one back a little bit. Yeah, so sell the outer space aliens to, I don't know, science. Just in general, science, to look up the 800 number for science, I guess. Find a scientist. Be like, hey, I got this guy, short guy, big head, black eyes, gray skin.
I call it Bill Nye.
Bill Nye, yeah. Yeah, look, Bill Nye. Look, man, we know you're listening. We need you to come pick up this outer space alien for us and, give us money or something. I don't know. The angels and demons and stuff, who do you call? How do you get money for that?
I think you have to call the Vatican.
Yeah, they got a lot of money. All their money's, wrapped up in gold, though. And it's in, really tacky decoration all over the place.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, I can melt some gold, right? I feel like we can get our money's worth here.
Oh, absolutely. I think they'll appreciate it too.
Yeah. Anybody that's listening to this is just going to be scratching their head this is not the show that I've been listening to for 3 seasons.
It got better, actually.
It got way better. This is what happens when Bryan wants to reevaluate his life choices and feels like, I don't know, I guess we could talk about this for an hour. If it were up to me, I would snap my fingers and this episode would be done and we wouldn't be sitting here going through all this and I'd be like, oh yeah, look, I got all the audio. I could just edit this. Yeah, no problem.
But I think for cast, obviously different age groups are in there. And I know we've all been through a haunt where there's kids. So putting people where they're age appropriate is pretty much ideal. The last haunt we just went through, me and Morgan, there were kids. We had to go through a school bus and there were kids on it and they were dressed up as clowns. And I thought that was really adorable because they're kids, they're supposed to be a little giggly and, kind of silly. So that was pretty perfect for them for that age.
Right. Yeah, they're not trying to be super scary. Yeah, a hot take here, I don't think kids should be working in a haunt in most cases. The few instances where I've come across, younger children, and by, kids, I mean basically anybody under the age of 16, because, at 16, you're more or less an adult in terms of, what roles you can play. It's, young kids, right? 8, 9, 10-year-olds. I get it, the owner's son wants to, be a big, bad, scary monster, whatever, that kid just isn't scary, though. That's the whole thing, right? I've come across a few instances of that where it's you have a kid. I'll give you a specific example. I'm not going to call out the haunt, but if they're listening, they know who the hell they are. It was an outdoor trail attraction, and there was a kid at the very end of the trail, like as you go into the next attraction, and there was like a kid wearing a costume and like a mask and whatever, and I don't know, he was like supposed to give you a scare or something. He wasn't scary because he's like 3 feet tall or something, and I'm like, your initial thought is like, I could punch you halfway across this property. So like, and then you come up and the kid's like, he's like the line attendant, I guess. Like he's supposed to like hold you there momentarily until the like next attraction is ready for more people to come in. So the kid just like takes his mask off and tells me like, okay, just wait here a minute. I'm like, oh, all right. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? This kid just broke character. So here's my contribution to what should be in a haunt for a cast. I don't know, actors that don't break character. Because at that same haunt, there was like at least 3 other people that broke character. So yeah, I don't know. Don't break character. It's bad. It's awful. You lose points.
Up to par with the character that you're portraying.
Yes, I agree. Okay, so what about costuming? I mean, generally speaking, there should be clothes in a haunt, unless you're at an 18+ haunt, in which case maybe there's not clothes. Both are okay in my book.
It's got one's just scary and one's freaky, I guess.
Yeah, well, we can use that phrase, freaky.
I mean, yeah, costuming seems really important. I mean, your character could be something super scary. It's meant to be scary. You're meant to terrify me. But your costume doesn't really portray it because maybe it's too clean. Maybe it's too pristine. Maybe it's just not torn up enough, not enough blood. And it kind of goes into the storyline. Like, if I'm going through a swamp, should I see
your white t-shirt that's never been dirtied before?
Right, yeah. Like, just there's so many incidents. I'm trying to think of this one particular one. I had to watch the video for Scare Factor. And it was the Ice Walker, Game of Thrones. It was in that video, but it didn't fit the storyline. And I was like, why the hell is that character there when it doesn't fit the storyline? Like, that costume doesn't make sense. Like, make the costumes also make sense with the storyline.
Yeah, I agree. It's Batman in the Belfry all over again, right? It's hey, why is there Batman in the attic? Oh, bats in the Belfry. He's a bat, and in the attic, that's where bats go, right?
Right.
Yeah, right. That's, I don't know. Look, don't put Batman in the attic, right? He doesn't belong in the attic. He belongs on top of the building, if nothing else. Haven't you ever watched Batman?
And I really just want to say this again. Zombies don't have to be everywhere. I know that those costumes are pretty much easy to make, but zombies don't have to be everywhere.
Oh my god, can we just be done with the zombies already? I thought, like, after Walking Dead, that was like, okay, everybody's had their fill of zombies, it's been played out, they've literally made a boring-ass drama out of zombies.
And that acting doesn't really do anything for your haunt except for actors going all the time.
Brains. Yeah, give me a fucking break. Tell me you've got a bunch of people that you can't train for a specific role without telling me you got a bunch of people that you can't train. So, yeah, I'm over zombies, to be quite honest. The next time I see a zombie, I hope like hell that it's zombie paintball and I can shoot them in the face.
Yeah, see, that would be worth it. That's entirely different.
Yeah, it's a totally different thing, but that's how over zombies I am. I'm sick of them. Also, you don't need clowns in every scene either. Again, I understand clown makeup and clown costumes are so easy to source, but you don't need them everywhere. Okay?
Right.
Your graveyard doesn't need a clown. It doesn't need a zombie clown either.
But I mean, I guess that's not too bad. It's still not needed.
Exactly. You don't. Zombie clown might actually be kind of cool character if we could do it right, but I don't know, like what other costume stuff do you think like really needs to be in a haunt? Like props. You don't really need props being carried by all or any of your characters, but it certainly helps things.
Right. If you don't have face paint, or if you're not really good at makeup, or if anyone who's working the haunt isn't good with either of those two things, a good mask goes a long way. I know a lot of the LASIK masks are pretty expensive, but they'll last forever. And they're really good quality. Like, some of them are kind of spooky. Some of them are just downright freaky in general, like in the weird sense. Not weird sense, in the spooky sense, but those go a long way. Like, especially if you're going to have the same storyline and same character, Get a decent mask.
They do go a long way. There are problems with using latex masks, though. One, if you Lysol the inside of that mask, that's going to cause an actor's face to break out. Latex in general, a lot of people are allergic to latex, so a lot of people can't wear those masks. Here's the thing, find out who your actors are that can wear latex masks and then get them to wear them because, they're not going to have the breakout. And you want good quality masks. You don't want like the cheap, like static, unmovable mouth mask that looks like it came straight off the fucking shelf of Walmart in their clearance section the day after Halloween because, that was the only thing they had left. Like you really want to invest in a mask and you really want to keep it to the same actor over and over because, it's one, just it's a sanitary thing. And two, it's, it allows that actor to really become that character. That way you don't have 7 people trying to be a character every season and nobody can quite nail it because nobody gets enough practice to do it, right? CFX is a great company that makes very realistic facial prosthetics and masks. I would recommend something of that quality. And yeah, I get it. It's expensive. Not everybody has that budget. But if you can afford a couple of those, get them. Put them on an actor that you know is going to be there a long time, even if it's your senior staff, right? If you're an owner and you act in your haunted house, buy one for you to wear. Be one of the people that wears a mask, that sort of thing, maybe, and I get, like, you don't want to invest in a mask that's you're going to put on somebody and they're going to leave and never come back next season. You got to find something there because, like, you do want good quality where you can put it. I understand not everybody needs to have that, right? The actor who's doing the drop panel, you don't need $1,000 mask on that actor. You can get away with a cheap, whatever, spirit mask.
Yeah, or do some of those, like, again, with the whole, like, figure out who's allergic to latex. You can figure out who has reactions to, like, spirit gum and stuff, because you can still get the prosthetics, see if that works with them, as long as there's no reaction. Those go a long way, too.
They do, and the thing you need to remember, too, is that those are often made of latex, so the people who can't wear a mask probably can't wear the prosthetics, although you can do custom prosthetics. There's plenty of videos on YouTube, there's all sorts of stuff online about how to create custom prosthetics using a clay, right? There's clay you can buy specifically for this purpose, and then you can paint it, and it looks great.
I've been guilty of doing my own special effects, like prosthetics, and it's literally just like a cotton ball, cotton swab. I mean,
You could do tissues.
Yeah, I've put just random things on my face, got the spirit gum. I mean, I did use liquid latex, but I'm not allergic. But I did test it just because you're still putting stuff on your face. Like, even if you're not allergic to latex, maybe in like a big sense, but your face is sensitive.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you can do so much with things you wouldn't necessarily think of when it comes to doing homemade facial prosthetics, right? Like you said, cotton balls. You can do tissues for wrinkled skin, right? So you can, when you put a tissue on your face and then you kind of bunch it up a little bit and then you get the liquid latex in there, and then it stays in place, and now you can paint over that with makeup or whatever, or you can get an airbrush in there and it looks like, wrinkled skin. You can do a lot of great stuff.
Yeah, and let's not forget, Elmer's glue is
Fantastic for this.
Yeah, I wouldn't totally advise it, but if you're allergic to liquid latex, Elmer's glue is pretty much a big bet.
The only problem is, like, you got to stop the actors from wanting to peel it all off their face all
But it's
night.
so satisfying at some point when you just start peeling it.
That's why.
But I understand.
That's why, like, you remember when you were a kid and you get, like, glue on your fingers, you would intentionally, like, cover your fingers in glue, wait for it to dry, and then, like, peel it all off? Yeah. You try to, like, get the whole thing off in one piece.
It is just...
So, yeah. So what about customer service? We're just trucking right along here. Customer service. What needs to be in a haunt for customer service? Generally people who are not going to be rude or mean or, like us.
Yeah, I mean, you're there for a good time. Like, people who are showing up are generally there to have a good time. They may not think they're going to get scared, but they're there for good times. Customer service, you shouldn't be just an asshole to them. Just, I don't know, enjoy it because they're probably only going to be there for the one night.
Yeah, and customer service goes way more than just beyond, like, what we think of as interactions between two people when it comes to customer service. We also cover under this, things like safety. So, like, what should be there in terms of safety? Well, I'll tell you what there shouldn't be, and that's scares on stairs. No scares on stairs. If inside your haunt there are stairs that go up or down, no actors anywhere near them, right? Because the last thing you want is somebody to get scared, trip over themselves, and fall down the stairs, and now they've broken a bone, and now they're going to sue your ass. And I don't care whatever fucking thing like, oh, you assumed all risks by buying this ticket, yada. No, that's bullshit. You're going to lose that lawsuit. I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice, but you're probably going to lose that lawsuit.
I mean, yeah, to be honest, if I was like a scaredy cat and I was on stairs, even though I saw, like, I was like, yeah, I understand if I get scared. It's like when they say if you drop your phone and it gets stolen throughout the haunt, that's on you. But if I'm falling down a flight of stairs because your actor scared me, I mean, I'm going to be pissed at the end of it.
Yeah, I'm going to be, not only am I going to be pissed, I'm going to be calling my lawyer, because I'm pretty sure that I'm going to win that case. So safety items like that, right? If you have really sharp edges on anything, maybe look at doing like pool noodles over hard corners. So that way, if anybody does bump into them, they're not going straight into a hard 90-degree
Right,
edge.
now they got a big gash either on their forehead if they're tall or their shoulder because they were hovering to the wall because they are scared, but now they're hurt.
Well, it doesn't even have to be that you were scared, right? It could be you're turning a corner and a scare came from the other side of you, and it just, it was enough to startle you and, kind of make you lean into that corner. You didn't realize the corner was there.
Right.
That's, I can tell you countless times I've been to a haunt where, somebody gets a really good jump scare on me where, like, yeah, it does startle me just because, like, wow, I wasn't expecting that to happen right there. But it's like, yeah, if there's something right there that's kind of close to you, yeah, you might like try to bump into it. Even without a scare happening, you might just bump into it because it's dark as shit.
And you can't really see where you're going, so you're gonna run into things. I mean, I'm a classic person who runs into everything. So if there's a sharp edge, I'm gonna hurt myself.
You're gonna find it.
I'm really good at that.
Yeah, I mean, and so the other things that we count under customer service are, we're looking at parking, right? How easy is it to park? How easy is it to find information that's information on the website about the place? How friendly and helpful was the other like non-acting staff, right? So we're looking at, when you go to the ticket booth, are they happy you came and are they friendly? Because like they shouldn't be trying to be super spooky. You're just buying a ticket or you're just picking up your tickets. Don't try to be all dark and brooding like, yes, welcome to the haunt, I'm going to eat your brains. Unless you're just doing it in a goofy way and, you're obviously getting laughs out of it. But, like, just smile, be friendly. It ain't hard.
Yeah, but if you're just in a bad mood when I walk up, kind of just puts me in like a, wow, this place already kind of sucks mindset because of that first encounter.
Yeah, right. First impressions matter, right? So if the first person I encounter, your ticket taker or your, ticket booth attendant is in a pissy mood that night, well, that's kind of setting the tone for the whole place.
So send their ass home because they're not doing you any favor.
Or put them somewhere else where they're not going to be dealing with customers.
For that.
Do something. You got to dress them up in a costume, put them to work, make them act. God, if you're going to be in a pissy mood, then like, why don't you put that effort to good use?
Yeah, start scaring people.
Yeah, it's way more fun than selling tickets anyway. And we have a note in here about accessibility. So this kind of goes into like, here's the thing, right? Most haunts are not handicap accessible. And I understand that some of them are, the guest we had on a couple weeks ago, Chris from the asylum, he says that they are handicap accessible. So that's a really great thing. And I'm assuming what that means is that, he has nice wide spaces going, all the way through the haunt where you could take a wheelchair basically, and where you may or may not have stairs, that instead of stairs, it might be a ramp, that sort of thing. So, accessibility, I think if you're going to have stairs, even if you're not saying, hey, we're handicap accessible, it's probably better to do a ramp just because not everybody can do stairs. I am not handicapped not physically anyway, depending on who you ask, I might be mentally handicapped, but that's neither here nor there.
Different podcast.
So like I deal with sciatica on my left side, so going upstairs can actually be very painful for me. Going up and down stairs can actually become really, really painful because of where the sciatic nerve is. So, ramps are generally a little bit easier for me to navigate, and it's like, it's going to be a little bit safer for people in general, too, because it's harder to trip on a ramp than it is on stairs, that sort of thing. Even without scares going on, it's just consider ramps where you have elevation changes. That's all we're saying.
And I think not only for the safety aspects, it would be a lot better if you had ramps or anything like that. I do like the ideal that places could be more accessible, even if they did it for one night. I know they're like, oh God, we're gonna do one night, make sure that everybody can come because we put ramps down or something like that, anything like that, or people with any other kind of disability. Kind of love that ideal if they made it to where everybody could try to enjoy it by making it more accessible.
That's true. So, and we're not saying that like, oh, you have to make it so that wheelchairs can come through. Look, I get it. By nature, haunts just generally are not going to be that accessible, but the more accessible you can make it, the better, I think, to a degree, because I feel like at a certain point you are going to start to have to make sacrifices depending on what you need to change. I can think of a few cases where if a haunt became like wheelchair accessible, for example, that, they would have to severely change a few scenes, and then all of a sudden things stop making sense, and it's just, you lose an edge, right? Because some scenes are just very tight, and that's part of what makes part of the creep factor in that scene. The fact that it's tight, the fact that you have a lot of things happening from either side, like if you just widen that out so that way you could get walkers and wheelchairs through there, you lose a lot of the scare factor of that, because now it's like, well, now these animatronics and these actors and whatever that's like, coming at me from all sides, they're further away. I don't need to worry about them as much. Right? It doesn't feel as threatening. So there is a balance to be struck there, but I think when and where you can, being a little more accessible is a good thing.
Yeah, so wherever you could. I mean, I feel like it would make the community a lot better to be able to bring everybody in.
So moving on to special effects, there's a lot of stuff going on here, and this all kind of comes down to what kind of haunt you're running, right? If you're running a traditional old-fashioned haunt, you're probably not going to have a lot in terms of special effects, but let's talk about what special effects even means. This is sound design. This is your lighting, your fog, your set design, your set and scene design, your props, your static and movable props, all that stuff, right? So even if you're doing an old-fashioned 90s, like you're trying to recreate the first haunted attractions, those had special effects. Those had like little rubber hoses that would stick out from the wall, and people would walk through and it would like, brush their ankles. That's a special effect. They had I don't think they quite had drop panels, but like they had like, pictures that would sit on a frame, and the picture would move because like there was somebody behind it, that sort of thing. That's a special effect. So anybody who says that like we're being traditionalists, we're trying to be very old fashioned here, like the first haunted attractions had special effects. And one of these days there's gonna be a special episode of the podcast where maybe we'll touch on the actual history of haunted attractions, what the first ones were. It's gonna be cool. We're going off topic now. We're trying not to do that.
I'm gonna be excited for that one. I love research.
Good. I've got projects for you to help me on. So what should be in a haunt in terms of special effects, right? Sound is a good one. If you don't have any sound, like it's just weird.
It just makes it for a really weird time, because you could probably hear someone's conversation who's like a group ahead of you, or just the weird conversations happening behind the walls because the actors are trying to talk to each other. Like, you need sound, whether it's music. Maybe for a scene, you need certain sound.
Lightning and thunder. You got lightning flashes with lights, and then you need thunder sounds. Like what about wind sounds, right? You need that whooshing like wind sound. You need the sound of coyotes howling at the moon, or wolves howling at the moon. You need a lot of ambient stuff that isn't like, when we talk about sound, we talk about like, sound effects coming from like specific things, but yeah, you also need all this like ambient stuff that's going on that makes you feel like you're in that scene, and that it's not just like, it doesn't feel like they built it on a Tuesday afternoon.
If you're going through a catacomb scene, anything like that, maybe like a really creepy thing, maybe go for a as below, choir, eerie choir sounds, anything that gives it that background noise almost.
Right. What you're trying to do with sound, in my opinion, is you're trying to create a scene that somebody can picture in their head by hearing only the sounds, right? So if somebody walked in there and closed their eyes, could they picture a scene, or, could they paint a similar picture to what you're trying to paint with that sound? So if you're in a catacomb, right, maybe you want like water dripping, because like, you've got water that's dripping from the ceiling and it's puddling up on the floor and you're hearing that drip. And maybe you hear, a ghostly choir that's somewhere off in the catacomb. But and if you're going to have that sort of thing, you need to have the visual cues that match up with that, right? So if you're going to have, ghostly choir that's supposed to be coming from like over that way, well, like you should have some illusion that like when I look that way, it looks as though I could go down there and find out like what the deal with this ghostly choir is. Now, what's cooler is if you can actually do an illusion of a ghostly choir and you can make me like see the ghosts, and do it with Pepper's ghost, folks. I can't tell you how many times I'm like, man, Pepper's ghost would be a cool illusion right here. And nobody does it anymore because plate glass is expensive.
See, that kind of goes back to the mask. If you invest in something that's really good, that'll last a long time, it's worth it.
It is. It's always going to be worth it. I feel like Pepper's Ghost as an effect gets so underused, right? Disney is famous for using it in their Haunted Mansion attraction. You can do it. It's just, you have to understand how the illusion works. But once you get it and you make it look right, oh my God, it's so good. So what else under special effects? Well, like what else should there be, right? I mean, lighting of some sort, obviously. Well, okay, so here's where the controversy comes in, right? Some people think that dark equals scary. The more dark, the more scary.
Not true. Some lighting really adds to the effect. A shadowy face in the corner, but you won't see it unless there's light.
Exactly. And we did a whole episode on this in season 3. I couldn't tell you the exact episode number, whatever, it's not important. We did a whole episode on blackout haunts. Scenes Unseen, I think was the title of it. And we talked about like what's the deal with blackout haunts, and I still maintain that like blackout haunts are just not that good. Part of going to a haunt means you get to see the sets and the scenes and the, the design and the hard work and stuff, and you just don't get any of that in a blackout haunt. And on top of that, like if you are going to have actors, now you can't really see what's going on unless they're like right in your face, and even then it's like you don't get all the detail. Lights, people, lights, for the love of God. I understand dark equals scary, more dark equal more scary. Like I think some of the creepiest scenes that I've personally encountered in a haunt were like fully lit up. I'm talking like bright lights, and it works for some scenes. I get it doesn't work for others, but my God, dark do not equal scary.
Because if it's too dark, you kind of miss the whole point. You kind of miss all of the visual cues. There's been plenty of times I've gone through a haunt that's maybe a little too dark, and I kind of miss what just happened, but I know something just happened because the people I'm around are now scared and trying to get away, and I'm like, what did I miss? Like, I didn't see it. Maybe I was looking in the opposite direction, or maybe it was just too dark because I have bad eyesight, so I need light.
Same. Yeah, I'll tell you, so one of the creepiest scenes I've come across is, it was actually at Hershey. In one of their haunts, it's like a butcher shop theme, and so in one of the scenes is like the actual slaughterhouse part of it, and the bright white tile walls and the bright lights that are shining in there. Like you can see every last little detail, but don't underestimate the power of bright white being equated with creepy. I think that it can work.
Yeah, and it's worked multiple times, even in movies. Most people get scared at movies when it's something in the dark. There are a lot of eerie visuals when it's a really bright scene. That's what freaks people out.
There can be, right? Because you can fit so much more detail into it, right? When you can see the details, like it adds to the story. It tells more about the story that's going on. And also, speaking of story, what can we like step away from the whole like you're in a hospital, now you're in a cemetery, now you're in the clown house? Like, can we just like have scenes that are coherent to the fucking theme? That would be great. I'd appreciate it. Like, tell me a cohesive story here. Don't be like, you're inside, now you're outside, now you're back inside for some reason, now you're in a different place. It just, like, none of it makes sense, man. And a lot more haunts are, getting on the right page here with, telling you a story and keeping you in theme, but there's still a few of them out there that are like, here's a scene, we thought this was kind of cool. Here's another one that we built that we also thought was cool. And it's like, none of it really tracks. None of it really, you're not telling me a cohesive story here. I'm not moving in a logical manner. I'm just going like, oh, I'm in a dark place. Yep. Black walls. And yep, there's stuff around. And oh, there's an actor. All right, next scene. More black walls. There's more stuff around, and yep, there's another actor. Like, where am I even supposed to be? You know, and they're like, that's the end of the haunt. All right, I guess.
Yeah, I think they just focus on like everything that they think is scary, which involves a lot of different scenes, and that normally involves what comes from stories or movies. They're like, this scene in this movie got people, so let's try to add a similar scene. That's not a full story. That's just a scene. You're not telling me a story with all the different scenes. I want a story. That actually makes sense.
Yes, yeah. I mean, like we said, was it last week? Or was it the week before? Story with story, story on story. Yeah, it was the week before. I think you were missing the week before. So one of the things we mentioned is that like you need to tell a story, right? And part of the reason that movies and video games are so good at telling a story and actually scaring people is because they're able to build suspense. They're able to take the time necessary to do that, right? In a video game, you can take hours upon hours to tell an entire story, right? I'll give you a great example. So I played Hogwarts Legacy. Yeah, I know. Send me all the hate in the comments. Blah blah. Who cares? I don't really give a shit. So I played Hogwarts Legacy. I thought it was a really well made game. I think that the storytelling is well done, even if it is a bit basic. Right? I will agree on that one. It is basic storytelling. However, I think that it's well written, it's cohesive, you understand what the main storyline is telling you and what it's having you do. And then throughout the rest of it, like you have the side quests that don't really have much to do with the story, but like they all fit in within the theme of what's going on. So, but the problem here is that, like, yeah, it takes you like 60 hours to play the game. You know, it takes you a long time to get all the way through that storyline. And you simply don't have 60 hours in a haunt. You have 30 minutes at most. You know, maybe if it's a really longer haunt, if it's a long haunt, you have like an hour. Most haunts, it seems you have somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes to tell an entire story. So it's difficult to do that. And you basically have to build all your suspense in the first two scenes, hit a climax somewhere in the middle, and then ride that out to the end.
Or a finale. That should always be big.
Okay, so here's the thing about a finale. I think a finale should be memorable. And if it's not big, it should be conclusive. It should be one of those. If you can't make it conclusive, then it needs to be massive. It needs to be the biggest scare on your property. But if you can make it conclusive and actually draw the story to a close with some finality, I much prefer that, right? I much prefer the telling of the story and actually wrapping things up and tying them closed. And I'll give you a great example of this. Terror Roulette, who used to run in Chicago, or I guess in Elgin, their whole thing was like, you know, we customize this to what you're afraid of, and like they have like a bunch of different rooms and stuff, and like the way they ran it was really interesting. It allowed them to have like way more out throughput than most other haunts. But one of the things that they did was the very last scene. You come in through to this hallway, and then you stand in like a elevator basically. And it's, you know, it's this little small box, and your group is standing in there, and there's a speaker, and it talks to you. It's like, you know, now that you know what you've seen, and you've seen what you've seen here, blah blah blah, we can't let you out alive. And it shoots fog out at you. But like the whole idea is that like we're just going to execute you. Here, you know, we're putting you in a gas chamber. And it's not a big scare. It's not even really all that scary, but it's conclusive. You brought the story to a close, right? You killed me at the end. Great. It's a conclusive end. I much prefer that over, you know, this giant chainsaw wielding maniac or whatever, because what are you concluding? That I got away? That maybe I didn't? Like, I don't fucking know, man. Like, it's big, it's scary, it's loud.
Especially if it's not the end of the story. If that's just what you're calling your big finale and it has nothing to do with the story. Whether it's big or just a closer, like, it needs to still just tie in. Unless you're going through like a Chainsaw Massacre themed haunt, then yeah, I kind of understand the chainsaw guy at the end. But it has nothing to do with the haunt. If you're going through like an outdoorsy haunt or a swamp haunt, anything like that, like it needs to make sense, and it needs to either be memorable / big, or I mean, every story has an end.
It has to end. Like if you're telling me this is the end of the story, then like make that conclusive. Okay, so what about immersion, right? Like I think we touched on a lot of this, right? In terms of your set design and your scene design, like it should be cohesive and in theme. You shouldn't be going from like hospital to graveyard to cabin in the woods to clown room to doll room. Like it doesn't fully track for me.
No.
Right. And some haunts will say like, oh, well, the story is that like, basically you're in the hospital and you get sick and you die. And so you go to your own funeral and now you're a ghost. You're wandering through and you like you see the place where you used to live and why was I living in like this clown house with a doll room? I don't understand.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people. I mean, I feel like they just try to play on people's different, which is why.
Yeah, that's all they're trying to do. They're like, what are people afraid of? Clowns? Being dead? Hospitals? Like, yeah, those are common things that people are afraid of, but you don't have to be so on the nose about it. Oh, I got to stick a claustrophobia tunnel in there somewhere. Like, why? Where does that exist in the real world? I'll put it to you this way. I have yet to encounter a claustrophobia tunnel that made sense in the story, right? The only way I feel like it could make sense is if you're trying to tell me you're like the scene is like I'm being born.
For me, it's always just fun. I mean, until I lose my hat and then I'm like, damn. But normally when it comes to the claustrophobia tube, it's just kind of funny to me.
Yeah, I mean, they're gross in general, right? I mean, like, how many fucking people walk through there with their, snotty noses and, their hands that have been, I don't know where. Or like the vortex tunnels, right? The spinny tunnels that make you dizzy. Like, yeah, it's a fun effect, it kind of works in like a fun house clown sort of theme.
Ever in a clown house scene. They're normally just randomly put somewhere in a hallway.
I do generally see them in like funhouse, clown, circus themes, but like, yeah, I've come across them in non-circus clown type attractions too. So yeah, I say get rid of them. All they do is make people dizzy. It's not helping you by any means. It's just there's better things you could do there. I think we've said our piece when it comes to immersion. Like, my God, keep me in theme. Tell the story and bring it to a conclusive end. Don't just like, I don't know, chainsaw guy, he kills you. Like, well, what if I got away?
Yeah, and most times in our head, we get away.
Yeah, right. It's like, that's why I so enjoyed Terror Roulette's ending scene, because it's like, no, you didn't get away. It's very clear. We put you in the gas chamber, we gassed you, you're dead. That's the end. And I appreciate that as a storytelling element way more than I appreciate, like, I don't know, big guy with chainsaw. He's big, he's scary. He'd make a lot of noise. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I guess, man, like, it scared my 6-year-old.
It scares my mom, but no.
Yeah, but, like, that's probably not difficult, right?
Exactly.
And all of the things we've just said go for scare factor. Like, all of this stuff, like, it needs build suspense, right? You need suspense in a story, in a haunt, to be able to really draw fear into people. We've gone over this a bajillion times on this podcast. As recently as 2 weeks ago, we talked about story. Why is story necessary, right? Well, because it builds suspense, it builds these scares, it does these things that like helps you, it draws you in, it makes you more invested, and it's the reason that immersive haunts and interactive haunts and extreme haunts always appear to be more scary than traditional walkthrough or hayride type haunts. And the reason is because you're now invested in what's going on. You're a character in the show rather than a passive observer. I think the minute that you can do that, the minute you can bring your patrons into the story and make them actually care about what's going on, they're more susceptible to actually being scared to things that are happening. And I understand that's not feasible for everybody. Your throughput goes to absolute shit when that happens, right? Look at Blackout NYC, the OG Extreme Haunt. They only sold a very limited number of tickets to that, and it was like you could only do a few people per night, and, they did not have huge numbers of people going there, even though huge numbers of people wanted to go. And the reason is because, like, it's a very personalized experience, right? I think it was like an hour or something, and a lot of what they did was they build the suspense. They tell you a story, and they're really drawing you into this world. They're making you a part of this world, so now you're invested in it. You have an interest in what's going to happen next because it's going to be happening to you. Right? And that's, that use of physical touch and that use of interactivity in the storyline makes things more, it raises the stakes for the customer. When I'm just walking through and it's like, oh yeah, I'm part of the story, oh boy. Yeah, the stakes couldn't be any lower.
Especially when it's just technically just random scenes thrown together.
Right. Yeah, you know, you're not telling me a cohesive story. I'm not invested in what's going on. I'm looking at it like, okay, I can appreciate the hard work that went into building the stuff, and the costumes look good, and the makeup looks fine, whatever. But you're missing the whole point of a haunted house. You're not being scary, you know? Evil Intentions is the one haunt that had one scene that absolutely I had to be physically pushed through the scene. So Evil Intentions in Chicago, they used to be in like this casket factory, and they had to move. I don't know if they're open again, but so they had one of the best haunts I've ever seen. So I was visiting Chicago. I was visiting Tiffany of Team Terror Techies and Mario and Nancy of Team White City Devils, and so we went to Evil Intentions. And you know, it's like their cue actors outside are a shit ton of fun. They're funny. They're interactive. They do all sorts of cool stuff. They're sliders, so you know they do the slidey whatever things. And so we go inside. Yeah, so we go inside and they have this really cool setup where they play into the fact that it used to be a casket factory. So you wait in line in like the warehouse and you see like the stacks of caskets and stuff. And when you go into the haunt, they put you into like these coffin cutouts in the wall, and like they close the door and then the other side opens, you walk through, and it's really neat. You walk through like tunnels that are like coffin shaped. Anyway, so we're coming through, and Nancy goes, oh, Bryan, you need to be in front for this one. I want you to see this effect in the next scene. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'm sure that's what it is. I know what's coming, right? Because they all know, like, the thing about mannequins. And so we turn the corner, and you go like up this little ramp, and you're like looking down a hallway. And along the sides there's like 6 or 8 mannequins or something, and they're all dressed as like nuns or priests or something. And at the very end, there's a painting of a nun. And so you're like in a church is kind of how this hallway is like themed and set up. So you're like in the church, and you walk in, and then so there must be a sensor that, you know, triggers as soon as like it catches that somebody's in there. So the lights, so like there's like light effects and whatever, and the lights go out, and when the lights come back up, the painting is gone, and here's an actor dressed as the nun that was in the painting. And it was a really cool effect. I love the body switch. I love that effect.
That's really cool, actually. I love that.
Like that was amazing. Like the timing on that, it's so good. And you can see how they did it, right? Because the painting just swings open, it just swings to the other side. There's an actor behind it. Really easy to do, but it looked amazing. So you go down the stairs, like, so that painting is like it's like over a staircase, basically. So you go down these little stairs, and you turn the corner, and now you're like in a basement scene, and there's like, I mean, there probably wasn't this many, but it felt like there was 100 mannequins in there, all covered with like a sheet over their head. I'm like, hell no, absolutely not. No. Mario and Nancy had to push me through that scene, like physically push me. I was like, no, I'm not going in there.
It's good to know you can actually be scared.
It's the one thing. It is the one thing, and I'm usually fine around like the mannequin animatronics that like move and stuff. I think those are actually kind of cool because it's not hitting the uncanny valley thing for me, right? When you can really hone in on that whole like uncanny valley thing, that's where it starts to freak me out. Yeah, it's the only scene that's actually truly scared me. That is literally the only thing, right? I don't remember what their finale was like, heavy metal scene something or other. It was cool. So they had like a lot of heavy metal playing throughout the show, which was awesome. But yeah, I mean, like it was cohesive enough that like, you know, it worked within their story, but my God, they hit the nail on the head for that one thing. So if you're afraid of mannequins, that is going to make you piss your pants. And we were talking to the owner afterwards. He's like, I don't even go into that scene alone. Like when he has to work, like he was saying that when he had to work on the show and stuff, or when he had to work on scenes, he wouldn't even go into that room alone. It freaked him out that much. I was like, brother, I feel you.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome. I have to see that sometime.
I really wish that they were still in that location, because I would highly recommend going to see it. But like I said, they had to move. That was their final year in that location. And I'm really glad I got to see it. It was, God, what a show. So the last thing that a haunt needs to have is entertainment and value. And I mean, if your haunt isn't entertaining, then what the fuck are you even doing?
Right, yeah.
Like, you need to be entertaining on some level.
If you weren't scary, entertain me. or humor me.
Exactly. We talked about this last week with Vince, and if you can't scare me, then entertain me. Make me laugh. Make me engage with me, right? Do magic for me. If you got somebody on your staff that can do magic, do card tricks. Do something to keep me interested.
Sure.
Because if everybody's trying to be like big and bad and scary and I'm just like not it's not doing it for me, then like no, I'm not being entertained. I'm not getting value out of this. I think that all haunts would benefit from some sort of midway or additional entertainment, right? This includes like gift shops, this includes queue actors, this includes, anything that's going to keep me on site for more than just the haunt, for just the attraction. If your haunt is just like, I show up, I get in line, I give you my ticket, and then I go through and then I leave and that's it, well, you're failing on the entertainment and value side of things.
Yeah. Like, I should probably add in something really cool, like things people talk about doing but probably haven't done yet. And one of them would be like axe throwing. I think I talked about that last week. Do an axe throwing booth. There are safety precautions, and a lot of people do have booths that travel to do something like that.
There's a haunt in Detroit that has axe throwing on site. I don't think they do it like during the haunt, but like it's in the same building. I don't think you could do it like between attractions, but you might be able to do it like after the attraction. I can't for the life of me think of the name of the place, but I mean, haunts in Detroit, right? It's not Eloise, it's the one with the bars. Anyway, somebody out there knows what I'm talking about. I found that like on the internet, if you want to know the answer to something, don't ask people what it is, what the answer to something is. Just intentionally say the wrong thing, and people will correct you. So, yeah, I don't know. Some haunt in Detroit, somebody knows what it is. Tell me in the comments.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, that would be super cool. I mean, I love axe throwing, but if I went to a haunted house and they had it like as a midway or even at the end, like in the same area with the gift shop, maybe. I mean, that's something that's really cool. I mean, that keeps me there longer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to keep me on site longer, and that's ultimately what you want as a haunt. You want me on site because you want me spending more money.
That or like a photo booth. I mean, there's so many things you could do with a photo booth for a haunt. I mean, besides having that photo in the haunt, there's things outside of the haunt that you could set up. People love taking photos. I mean, let's be honest. Everybody loves taking photos of literally everything in their life.
And especially themselves.
Especially themselves. So have fun with that. Have a photo booth. Have props. Maybe some weird little half shirt that they can throw on, like a half clown shirt if you want to keep with the clown theme. Anything. Like, you could do so much with that.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do there. Just literally anything to keep me on site. Ultimately is what we need out of most haunts. I think that everybody would benefit from doing that.
I'm not saying you have to bring in like vendors or anything, but I mean, some vendors are actually designated to do things with the spooky. Like, there's a photographer, I think, in Louisville that's going to be coming down to Henderson soon, and they do actual plate photography where they take that.
That's cool, actually.
Yeah, like maybe do that. I mean, that might be a little bit of money, but
hell, get in contact with food trucks in your area. I've said this before. Contact food trucks in your area, work out a deal with them, get them at your haunt. So, you get a little bit of money, they get a little bit of money, your customers get some food. What's not to love here, right? It's win-win.
And back to the whole people love taking photos. Have a really cool food truck, have something really cool that lights up outside. People are going to take a picture with their food item or whatever in front of that really cool light up artifact thing you have outside. They're going to be like, wow, this place was really cool, and what an awesome corn dog, something like that. People love taking photos.
Yes, they do. And it all keeps people on site. Ultimately, that's what you need, is to keep people on site for longer and spending more money. Because that's your whole point, that's your whole purpose as a business. So, you got anything else to add?
I think so. I mean, I know we covered a lot of it before. I stand really strong on giving people pretty much their photo opportunities. That's how people want to keep memories now.
That's true. That's very true. That is what people want is photos and memories of the places they've been. So I think that's all the time we got for today. I didn't think we'd run as long as we did, but I think we're running perfectly on time. It'll be fine.
I told you I could do this.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so for those of you listening, like, what happened here was, like, normally we have a nice comprehensive layout of, like, oh, we're going to talk about this thing and that thing. And I was like, hey, do you think we could riff on what should be in a haunt for an hour? And Taylor's like, yeah, no problem. Easy peasy. I'm like, okay, glad you can. I can rant for an hour.
Sometimes it takes me a while to think about it, but I got there.
Yeah. No, we'll get there, That's the magic of audio editing. You can cut out all that thinking and all that dead space. You can find The Scare Factor on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Check out our website, thescarefactor.com, to read reviews, find haunts, and check out the newest section, Spooky Spots, where you'll find fun and spooky places to go all year round. This podcast is available on YouTube, Spotify, Buzzsprout, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, Deezer, Player FM, and Podcast Index. If you're listening to it, you found it. No, we're not on iTunes yet. The Scare Factor is now an affiliate of Frankenfuel, energy drinks for weirdos like you. Yes, you! You can get 15% off your order today by going to frankenfuel.com/scarefactor or by clicking the affiliate link in the show's description. Frankenfuel. Wake the dead, fuel the living. We have been Bryan of Team Skelegore,
Taylor of Team Brady Pack.
and this has been the Scare Factor Podcast. Stay scary.